Well, thank you for tuning in to our midweek message this week. I'm Chris Martin and I'm the team rector here at the Golden Cap Benefice. I wonder what you're like at waiting, whether it's waiting for a bus or for a video to start, or waiting for news from a friend or a relative or a doctor. You know, we've all had to do our fair share of waiting this year, haven't we? We've been waiting to come out of lockdown once and now twice. Many of us have had to wait to be able to see family and friends who we may not have seen for a long time. Many of us are waiting for life to get back to some kind of normality. We've also been waiting for a vaccine. And hopefully our wait will soon be over on that front. But waiting is not something that many of us do well, because waiting is just so countercultural to the frantic pace that life so often is in the 21st century. You know, these days waiting is much more to do with circumstance than by choice, because we live in a world of instant gratification. We wait for nothing. Retailers make a unique selling point out of making us wait for as short a time as possible. I was ordering something online just the other day and was told that if I ordered by a certain time, I'd be able to get it delivered the same day. I mean, who needs anything the same day? On Sunday, the church enters the season of Advent. And Advent is a time for waiting. It's about waiting and longing, a time when we look forward in anticipation to remember the first coming of Christ at the first Christmas. And we wait also in anticipation for the return of Christ, who has promised to return to bring history to the glorious fulfillment that Christ longs for. Now, whether we like waiting or not, waiting is an important part of Christian history and an important part of our experience as God's people. God's people are often asked to wait. They have to wait to be delivered from slavery in Egypt. They have to wait to inherit the promised land. They have to wait to return home from exile in Babylon back to Jerusalem. They have to wait for the promised Messiah. The Psalms are littered with the instruction to wait patiently for the Lord. Isaiah the prophet tells us that those who wait for the Lord will gain new strength. They will mount up with wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not become faint. The disciples of Jesus are asked to wait for the promised Holy Spirit who came on the day of Pentecost. God acts on behalf of those who wait. But if you're like me, you'll find waiting hard. Perhaps that's why some people feel inclined to put their Christmas trees up pretty much as soon as Halloween is finished. They just find waiting so difficult. And sometimes we have to wait a long time to see any hoped for change. You know, the Israelites had to wait a long time to inherit the promised land, and often we have to wait long times too. There's often disappointment in waiting, disappointment with God, that God hasn't yet acted. The psalmist cries out, "How long, O Lord, how long? Have you forgotten to be gracious? Why have you forsaken us?" Waiting can just be so disappointing. And waiting can often feel like idleness, like wasting time, being unproductive. But waiting is not the same as doing nothing. Waiting is purposeful. It's an activity that requires alertness and attention and watchfulness and prayerfulness. It requires us to be present and to lay down what we've been doing or what we think is important and look for what God is bringing. Throughout Advent, we bump into those familiar gospel passages, don't we, that urge us to be on guard, to be alert, to be watchful, to keep watch, to stay awake, because this is a necessary part of prayerful waiting. If you fall asleep or lose attentiveness at the bus stop, you might just miss the bus. Prayerful waiting needs to be practiced. We need to be intentional about it. We're called to trust in the slow work of God, as one Jesuit priest once called it. And that requires us to wait. So in Advent, we are called again to wait. In this season, together, let us be people who are learning how to wait prayerfully, to wait patiently for the Lord. It's not easy, but may we take inspiration from this poem by Anne Lewin that's called Watching for the Kingfisher. She writes this: prayer is like watching for the kingfisher. All you can do is be there where he is likely to appear and wait. Often nothing much happens. There is space, silence, and expectancy. No visible signs, only the knowledge that he's been there and may come again. Seeing or not seeing cease to matter. You have been prepared. But when you've almost stopped expecting it, a flash of brightness gives encouragement. May God bless us with flashes of brightness as we wait patiently for the Lord this coming Advent.